Hey, good evening, good evening, good evening. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Another day's journey. So glad about it and so grateful for your joining me for another Real Talk with Pastor Waller. This is opportunities for me to bring in guests and persons from our community and from the larger community to talk about what's going on in the community and to inform you about what is available to you, to talk about what is happening with, to, and for our people. And the same thing is happening tonight. I've got a brother here with me who is making things happen in the movie world, and I want you to know about him. I'm going to pronounce the name that I can pronounce, but then he's going to tell us about his whole name. This is Brother Sixx King.
Sixx King,
How are you? He is a movie producer. He is an artist. And, you know, I've been having these conversations with people about, you know, what can you do? What's available to us? What happens on the back end? You know, when it comes to the whole artist entertainment thing, everybody sees what's on the screen. But there's a whole lot of stuff that happens behind the screens that you'll never see, and that's an opportunity for you. And so today we're going to be talking with Sixx King, and we're going to be talking about his new movie that's coming up, but even more about how you can participate and what's happening in our community. So Sixx, how are you today?
First and foremost, thank you, Rev. And in full transparency, my very first documentary, you supported me. You participated in this documentary. It was about Black mothers who had lost their children to violence. It's an award-winning documentary, Mothers of No Tomorrow. Yeah. So I really appreciate this is a full circle moment for me. It's emotional because it's a full circle moment for me. There was a kid by the name of Christopher Spence who was murdered back in 2011, and you eulogized his funeral. Yeah. And that eulogy set the tone for many domino effects of things to happen following that. It really ignited a whole new youth group by his friends who could have went a different way. They've done the full circle that's been going on since 2012 and has helped thousands of kids in the community. So it is a domino effect of that eulogy to young Black men, which made the film an award-winning, film. And so I thank you for having me on this platform. I had to just really get that out before we got into anything. That you are my film day one.
Amen. Thank you. And thank you for that. Now, I called you Sixx King, but there's a whole story behind your name. So I need you to help us with that whole story and your whole name.
Well, a lot of people don't, I really don't put a lot of personal things out on social media.
Understood.
Even if it's close people. But my father's from Ghana. So my father's from Ghana, and my traditional name my day name is Kojo, which means I was born on a Monday. But because I am the first grandson of my grandfather, Emmanuel Adadevo, I was given the traditional name. So my traditional name is Jagba Nassim Nicholas Emmanuel King Adadevo. And I'm from the Adadevo family, which is the first royal family of Ghana, which I didn't grow up royalty. Let's be real clear about that. My mother was a former Black Panther. She started the All Africa's People Revolutionary Party with my godfather, Kwame Ture, who she took to Ghana. Most people know him as Stokely Carmichael. So I was a child of the movement. And when my mother met my father, she was on her way to Ghana to just, get more African roots and things. She didn't know he was from a prominent family. She actually just met him as a broke college student. So I think that was the preemptive strike for the first coming to America, because she was like, I just knew him as a broke college student.
Right.
And even when they got married, he didn't have enough money to give my mother a ring. And so my mother had, jewelry. She actually took her ring off and gave it to him so that he could put it on her finger to marry her. Now, that's probably where I get being a hopeless romantic, because that's the type I've never been married, but that's the type of love. If I am right in this season of my age, I'm a man of a certain marinated age. I've been marinating for a long time.
For a minute.
Been marinating for a minute.
All right.
That's the type of love that that I would definitely have to accept where it was a union. So.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for being here today. And we're having you on because we're having a conversation about what you do. Obviously, you did the documentary.
Yes.
You are a movie maker.
Yes.
So talk about what that is, what you do, and what you're doing right now.
I am a writer, producer, and director, and I run a boutique full production company. Started the company in 1994.
Wow.
And it came about, me and one of my coworkers, we both worked at a clothing store. I actually worked 2 jobs at that time.
Okay.
I worked at Pathmark and I worked at Oak Tree, which was a 90s. If you're my age, you remember Oak Tree and merry-go-round.
Yep.
And so I worked 2 jobs, and I worked one paid every week, one paid every 2 weeks. And my manager, who was my best friend and who I actually started the company with, he was an actor. And I did theater in school. So acting was second nature, to me.
Okay.
And we went on an audition with someone that he had did a PSA with. That someone was Lauryn Hill. She was a non-famous Lauryn Hill. And we went to do Sister Act 2. And as soon as I walked in the room, the producer was like, "Next!" I was like, I didn't even get a chance. And my friend went in, he was like, "Next!" And well, of course, Lauryn ended up getting the part. But I said to myself, I vowed then, who's the dude with the phone that don't even look like he can even do anything? I'm going to be him. I'm going to produce my own films. And that was the spark that started Sixx Degrees Media.
Wow. So Sixx Degrees Media, you do movies.
Yes.
And so talk to us about what that looks like.
Well, I started out actually producing music videos.
Okay.
So my biggest client was Eve, right here from Philly.
Yeah.
I worked with Eve her entire career, basically, until her records were, until she left the game.
Yep.
I did a lot of the local rappers here, Ram Squad and Major Figures and Gilly the King and all of those. So that's what started it.
Okay.
And as a producer, the first video I ever produced was the Fugees Killing Me Softly video.
Okay.
That was the very first big video I ever produced. And how I actually got that video was by a mistake, but God doesn't make mistakes, right? So it was by mistake. My cousin told me there's a company called Rough House here in Philadelphia. I was living in New York at the time. He said, you should go there and see if you can get your production assistant job. Well, I was working at Oak Tree at the time, so I wore a suit. I used to carry a briefcase. It didn't have anything in it, but I just looked important.
Right.
So I come in, I'm looking like I done got off the Don't Be Cruel tour. I got the mustard yellow suit on, double breasted.
Right.
I mean, bust down. And I walk into Rough House, and the president thought I was a referral that Will Smith had referred.
Okay.
And he's like, "Hey, are you the producer that Will Smith referred?" I was like, "Yeah." He took me into the office, and there was a Lauryn Hill, Wyclef, the Fugees, but they weren't. This was the album that would blow them up.
Gotcha.
And I had seen Lauryn's sister audition. So in the 90s, if you lost somebody's number, it was an act of God if you ever ran back into them.
Right.
And she's like, "Are you the producer?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I produced the Fugees Killing Me Softly video. It won an MTV award. And that's actually what started my professional career. And as a producer, you have a producer and you have a director.
Yeah.
The producer is responsible for the budget.
Okay.
So you get a budget and you have to allocate the funds and make it work for within that budget. You get $100,000 or $200,000, whatever is in that budget, whatever the creative dream is. As a producer, you have to make that happen. So when you see producer or executive producer, the executive producer is the person that's responsible for getting the money.
Gotcha.
And bringing it. And the producer is responsible for making things happen, getting the talent, bringing people in for that.
And then the director is?
And the director is the person who makes the vision happen. Everything that you see on paper is what comes to fruition from the director. And a lot of times things that you have on paper don't necessarily play out well when you're filming. And so sometimes that's when vision comes in, and you have to be able to pivot and say, hey, that doesn't sound right, so let's do it this way or that way. And a lot of the times, the best art, the best things come when you're improvising.
That's right.
We've seen it with Training Day with Denzel Washington, and when he's telling, I'll take all y'all to jail. That was improvised. That wasn't on the actual script.
Wow. And so now I have, across the years, we've run into each other, but one notable moment, and you're responsible for this because I don't know how I ended up on the stage with Meek Mill, helping him get out of jail, but you did that.
Yes.
So what was that? Yeah. I know that Meek Mill needed another chance, and I know that he that was the right thing to do for him at that time. But you orchestrated that whole thing.
Yes. You know what? Thank you, because a lot of times I'm a child from the movement. So I was a radical speaker at 5 with the African People Revolutionary Party.
Yep.
My mother is the godmother of the reform movement. She had got black men off of death row who were disproportionately put on death row in Florida. And so she's the godmother of the reform movement. So it was nothing new to me. But at the time, Meek Mill was on probation, and no one would speak up for him. No one wanted anything to do with Meek at all. So I said, I have to do it. So me and another friend of mine, Daobe, he started a petition, and I started the grassroots of what is now the reform movement.
Yeah.
And of course I had to come and get you, because I knew that we needed prayer, and that we needed that prayerful leadership over it. And now reform is responsible for thousands of people getting off of probation. And just to kind of, a lot of people still don't understand why probation was servitude, right? If you were on probation and you had a year worth of probation, and at 363 days, and you got 2 more days, and let's just say your house caught on fire, and you call the police and you call the fire department, that would be a violation, and that was called police contact. Even though you were not doing any criminal activity, just because you had contact with police, that was a violation, and they could lock you up and put you back in jail for 2 years and then give you 4 years more probation. So this is how Meek Mill was on probation for 11 years without new violations. In like criminal activity or what have you, it just would be police contact. One person got into a car accident, and the police came and they locked this guy back up. So those were the servitude that we were fighting against to stop it. And I was so glad to see what the movement has turned into. But you got to have the grassroots people. You got to, I'm not at the press conferences, and I'm not at all the pretty stuff. I'm not at the ribbon cuttings and everything. But to me, it's always hilarious for those that we did reach out to. Yeah. And they said no in the beginning. And then, of course, how the bandwagon comes on, and now everybody is on it, or what have you. But I can sit in pride and go, no, I got in the mud when it was dirty, when people didn't want to do it. And it wasn't really about Meek. A lot of times it's the person who sparks the movement.
Got you. Well, thank you for that. But you're here today because you've got another project that is coming. I know you've been working on this, and I'm grateful to know and watch you. Talk to us about this particular movie that's getting ready to come out, and what it is, why we need to see it, where we can see it, all the above.
It is the film is called Jonesing When Love Is a Habit, and it's a spiritual successor to Love Jones. Okay. And a lot of times when I'm a hopeless romantic, and I love Jones. But a lot of people wanted to know, like, what happened to Nina and Darius? Okay. And so even though these movies make a lot of money by Hollywood standards, they're not produced a lot from Hollywood, right? Because they still don't believe that black folk can bring people together. So I had to do it. And so this was not a remake of Love Jones. It was a response. I thought that every love story deserved a legacy. And so I created Jonesin. What if Nina and Darius did make it and that their respective careers blew up and they had a daughter who was a poet? And so with Jonesin, we follow the legacy of the daughter, of the hypothetical daughter of Nina and Darius from Love Jones. So it's a beautiful film. We've been taking it around the country, and now it premieres nationally. You can go to amctheaters.com or lovejonesmovie.com. I have Khalil Kain in it. I have Malik Yoba in it. And Khalil, if anyone remembers, Khalil Kain played her fiance that she left Darius for.
Okay.
And so he hypothetically comes back at her divorce attorney. And so, love goes through its stages. It goes up and down.
Right.
But this is this generation's Love Jones. This is this generation Love and Basketball. I needed to make something for our youth. My son is 30 years old. He didn't have his Love Jones. He didn't have his Love and Basketball.
Gotcha.
I mean, Sexy Red and Kodak Black. This is what they are pushing to our youth. And I grew up, with Queen Latifah and conscious rap, and we had NWA. We had those. However, it was balanced, and we didn't have that in programming. So I'm super proud of this film.
Okay. And when you say it's coming out, is this something we can go to the theaters to see?
Theaters. And you can actually go to amctheaters.com to get your tickets. Here's the thing. I just did an article with Forbes, and I am the first African-American, according to all of the data. I'm the first African-American to self-finance and self-distribute nationally and globally without a studio involved. Normally, Tyler Perry, he did it with Lionsgate. He self-financed, but he had to have Lionsgate to distribute it, and Robert Townsend, and all of those that came before me. So those brothers and sisters, Ava DuVernay, she was also a trailblazer. They, crawled so that I could walk. So I am the very first to be able to do it. And of course, when you're doing something, you don't know that you're making history at that moment. But it was creative freedom. I needed to do it.
And so now talk to me about any metrics that are important so that our listening audience can recognize the business of this. We need people to go to the movies, right?
We need people to go to the movies ASAP. And the reason being is because those first week numbers are everything. It sends a message to Hollywood that our voices matter, that our stories matter, and they matter in an authentic way, not in a perverse way, not in a way that people can Google what Black people may be saying or doing, but from the people that actually live it and write it and understand it. And Rev, you know what I'm proud about in this movie? That it's clean. It's absolutely, I could take my niece and sit there and not cringe. It brings back, masculine men back on, on stage, which we have been missing. There's room for everybody, but where's our Shafts? Denzel is getting. Where's our Denzels? And it brings it in the youth, and again, it's clean. It's I can sit with my niece and not cringe, because intimacy comes in many ways. We don't need to see people taking their clothes off, in films. We don't need to do that. So it's intergenerational. People who love Jones are coming out, and they're bringing their daughters and they're bringing their sons to be able to see this romantic comedy that gives us nostalgia back. Where we just, if you didn't, we used to call it, in where I grew up, we used to call it your chalk game. It was a talk game. You had to be able to talk to a young lady, right? If you didn't know how to talk, you wasn't getting those digits at all. And so you had to have, your game had to be nice. And so you see these young people talking more and interacting more.
Yeah.
And as a father of a 30-year-old who's married, he's been married for 10 years, it brings back memories of how I had to interact and gives them a starting point.
So thank you for that. So let's talk a little bit. I've had others on this show. I'm really interested in exposing would-be artists and producers and promoters to the back end.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about you didn't just make this movie and now it's in AMC.
Right.
It had to go through some steps.
Yes.
What are
Yes.
some of those steps that go from you finished this movie and now you say, hey, I want to let the world know? What does that look like?
Well, you have to promote it.
Okay.
And promotion and marketing is everything. I did it very unconventional, right? And I made the studios, I made AMC and all of the theaters come to me because I was selling out the theaters. So for me, I put my own money up. And I'm not Bill Gates. I got to get mine back. So I'm like Denzel. I'm leaving here with something. Right. So I had to get mine back. And the only way that I thought that would be feasible for me is to rent the theaters out and sell premium tickets. I knew that the content was good enough. I knew that the experience would be good enough to sell premium tickets.
Okay.
In order for someone to sell a $30 ticket, that movie better be good. It better not be a Tubi original.
Right.
When I get up in this theater, it better be a movie. And so a lot of people pick up cameras, but a lot of people are not director of photographies. A lot of people are not writers. A lot of people are not storytellers or authentic storytellers. So I did it theater to theater, state to state. I did it just like a play, but I did it in the theaters. And so those numbers started to come in. I'm selling out 500-seat theaters at $40 a ticket. You can do the math. I started making money enough not only to give me the money that I put back in, but also to finance other projects. Once the theater started to see that, it was like, wait a minute, who's this person that is doing it? But it's also layers to it as well. You have to be a part of, the tracking system, and that's a whole nother fee. And they don't let anybody in that tracking system in which they get the numbers for how much films make. You have to be a legitimate mini studio. That means you have to have a plethora of films. So I have Once Upon a Time in Philly 1, 2, or some I have, I have like at least 10 projects coming out.
Really?
Just to be even considered to even get in the theaters.
Got you.
So it is layers upon layers that you have to do. And they have to be great projects. You're just not getting in there with, cell phone footage.
Exactly.
You have to be a legitimate player. So it took me, I would say, 30 years to get to this point, and a good 7 or 8 just doing it with the theaters. That was my way. People call it the Dolomite way, where he just rented out the theaters. But that is, and it's not guaranteed. It is a risk that you take. So when you do it, you got to do it all the way.
And that's an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes.
I mean, and that is different. You mentioned the Tubi.
Yes.
There are lots of movies on Tubi, and that is a genre.
Yes.
And shout out to those who are doing that work. But that's a particular thing.
Yes.
And so if somebody's watching right now, there is a guy with a camera says, I want to do what you do. He's 20 years old, or a woman, young girl. She's saying, I want to do what you do. How you get started?
Well, it's easier now
than
it has ever been. Shoot what camera am I looking at? This one?
Tell 'em.
Shoot the movie. You can actually shoot movies on iPhones now because they come in 4K.
Okay.
Tell the story, shoot the movie. Put it in the can, as we would like to say. Finish it. Stop starting things and not finishing them. It takes consistency, right?
Yep.
Everybody wants to be at the ribbon cutting ceremony, but no one wants to get in it, right?
Yeah.
And really finish it out.
Yeah.
And so now you can, back then when I was starting, it was, thousands and thousands of dollars,
Got you.
But master your craft. Master your craft.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people get into this business and they, everyone wants to be, a director or producer, and that's fine, but you got to master your craft. You can't come in with a silly season and, you want to do this. You got to master it. It takes hours upon hours to do. As a Reverend, you have to master what you're doing.
Right.
It takes many years and many hours for you to make it look good and feel good and to inspire people. So that is the same artistry that comes in to making a film and context. People, attention spans are not what they used to be. So if you don't get the person in the first 5 minutes,
that's right,
forget about it. You have lost them. I'm not spending it. I'm not on your story. If your story too long on your Instagram, I'm not watching it, you know.
Got you.
But if it's engaging, I can stay. And that's how you can make money. This is how you make the money on the Tubies as well. You get paid. It's called advertising, AVOD, advertising video on demand. So a lot of the commercials that you see while watching Tubi, the content provider gets paid for.
Yeah.
But it's only if people stay for
long enough.
If, you know, so when you go out here and you make your movie and you think you're going to do what 6 Degrees of Media is going to do, and you haven't did your due diligence, you're going to be in for a rude awakening when you get that check, and it's not looking, you know, to be within what you thought it would be.
No, and that makes sense. I mean, for those of us that do public speaking, we recognize that when you stand up in front of a group of people for the very first time,
yes,
you've got those first 2 to 3 minutes, and what you say and what comes out of your mouth in those first 2 to 3 minutes will determine whether they're going to give you another 30.
Yes.
And that's even if you have 30 and they sit there, they can turn you off if, in fact, what happens in those first 2 or 3 is not grounded and is not speaking to them.
Exactly. So you have to be able to be a storyteller.
Got you.
It has to be engaging.
So, and I really appreciate you telling us about your journey and what you are doing. Is there anything about you and the movie business that I did not ask you that you think people need to hear and understand about doing what you do?
This business is hard. And especially for, you know, African Americans. We're making some progress, but we're still not getting our just due. And so therefore, when you see people like a Tyler Perry, nobody can say anything wrong to me about Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry did it from the mud, okay? And I always look at his trajectory like a 400 or 800 millimeter race, right? Just because you see the person in the back doesn't mean they're going to end up in the back. You see, when you're running those races and you bend that curve, it's those that are on the inside, it starts to even out. Tyler Perry started out in 2005 when he first dropped his first. That was 20 years ago. And he's the first African American to have a studio. So just think about all of the other African Americans that that had a running start, and he's now a billionaire. So we have to be able to support each other.
Yeah.
If we want our narrative to be our narrative, right? We have to be the author of it. If we don't want the buffoonery, if we want more different worlds, if we want more of those Cosby shows, if we want more of those things that are positive to our community, then we have to support. It is essential that you show up to the movies.
Yeah.
And the reach back is just as important. I took Kamaj Nixon Myers is from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I would go around in the schools and offer a program to children who wanted to act and be in this business. He was one of them. So he's going to be on a national stage. So the give back is just important. And I'll say this in closing because I know we've been here. Rev, thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for believing in my first project. And a lot of times I think appreciation without allocation is just lip service. So for me, what I'm doing is I'm giving 10% of our national revenue, profit, back to Enon to do whatever you guys like. Amen. Because you supported me in my first film. So this is national. That means Chicago money everywhere. We're playing all over the country. Right here in Cherry Hill, we'll be at the AMC theaters, but 10% of our revenue, our net profit, will come back to Enon. It's a full circle for me.
Wow.
It's a full circle. And I want you guys to do what you have a plethora of programs that you guys do. And I'm not Tyler Perry yet, but I don't have to get full in order for people that I love to eat.
Yeah.
This is it. So please go out, support the film. Thank you for having me here. We've had a lot of God wink moments in this. God has used me as a tool to create this, because I'm gonna tell you, I don't know how I was able to do it without the blessings of God. And I truly say that from the bottom of my heart.
Amen. Well, brother, thank you so much for that. And thank you all for joining. This is Sixx King. He is a movie producer. He is a documentarian. He has done so much work in our community and is here to inspire those of you that are artists. And so we appreciate this conversation. Please don't forget, we will be in church in the morning, and we're looking forward to worshiping with you. I'm going to pray for jonesing. We're going to pray for the artists in the community. As, of course, you know, we've been celebrating Black Music Awareness Month. And so this is another way to celebrate the art in our community. Come on, let's go to God in prayer, and I'll talk with you soon. God, I bless you and I thank you. Thank you for Sixx King. I thank you for what you're doing in his life. I thank you for his gifting. I thank you for the opportunity to share this moment. I thank you for the ways in which you continue to show yourself strong in our lives. And I pray that you would use this movie to raise the conversation about Black love in our society. Help us, Lord, to love each other. Help us, Lord, to tell our own story. That America would know who we are, and America would know what is happening and coming out of our community. Now, God, I pray for those who have taken time to listen. I pray for those who have taken time to hear this conversation. And now as we go, would that you go with us, stand by us until we meet again. It is through Christ, and for his sake we do pray. Let us all say, amen. Amen. God bless you, and God keep you, is my prayer.